Well, returning to this latest flood event in New South Wales, momentum is building behind calls for more comprehensive action to prevent flood disasters. After all, it's the third such event in a bit over a year. Kevin Conolly is the New South Wales member for Riverstone, which covers flood-affected areas like Marsden Park and Schofields. And he's written to the Premier Dominic Perrottet asking for practical steps to be taken immediately, including raising the Warragamba Dam wall. Kevin Conolly joins me now. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. You are calling for action in terms of flood mitigation in your area. Before we get to that, what can you tell me about what is going on in your area at the moment? The scenes out there, what constituents are telling you?
Look, the water is still up. It's going down very, very slowly, and that's a real pain for people who can't get back into their homes and businesses. All they can do is wait. They know what they're going to find when they do get back into their homes and businesses because they've been through it a couple of times already this year. And it's just so depressing for them. It's just such hard yakka to front up again and have to clean up, have to restart, have to throw out a whole lot of stuff and begin rebuilding their lives.
Now, you've spoken about the release of water regularly from the dam. That's what you want to see. How would this help? How would this help? And we'll start with the release of water first and then the dam wall.
The pre-release I'm talking about, Andrew, is in the days leading up to a rain event. We now have the Bureau able to tell us 4, 5, 6 days ahead of an East Coast low or an event like we had last week that they are expecting heavy rain. Now, if we get such a warning from the Bureau and we've got dams that are already full, we've got 2, 3 or 4 days to release some water to lower the dam levels in a controlled manner before that surge of water hits those dams.
Does that create a kind of minor flooding, but nothing serious? Is that how you would see? And what does it actually do?
It can be calibrated so it doesn't break the banks of the river. So that the river certainly rises, it runs faster, but it doesn't break the banks and flood people's properties. Now, that means you can only do a little bit of pre-release. You can't really lower the flood level very much by doing this. Studies done after the March 2021 flood showed you could reduce it by 20 centimetres or 30 centimetres in different contexts. That's the sort of improvement you get, so it's quite limited.
You also want
to put that in a context, if your house is flooded with 6 inches of water and you lose all your carpets, your electricals are damaged, you have to replace the gyprock, that 6 inches makes a huge difference.
But you also want the dam wall raised. But how much protection would that offer? Because someone has put to me that in the case of a 1 in 100 year event, it would only protect areas for a few hours, but I guess more people would have a chance to evacuate. That it's been put to me it's not a cure-all. It would help, but not a cure-all.
Nothing is a cure-all, Andrew. You can't stop floods. We all know that. What we can do is reduce the peak of the floods, make them slightly smaller, impact people a bit less. What you get with raising the dam wall is you hold the water back for a period of time. The extra surge of water that's coming into the dam doesn't all come over the dam at once. And that does lower the peak. Again, the studies done after March 2021 showed that you would have reduced the peak of that flood by 3.4 metres. That's the height of a house. That's a huge difference for people in the floodplain. Now, the benefit does get smaller as the flood gets bigger. That's because the floodplain widens out, so the height difference becomes smaller as the water spreads further. But it still remains a measurable and significant improvement in any kind of flood. You get a smaller outcome if you've got the raised dam wall working for you.
I feel like I was reporting on the Warragamba Dam wall issue a decade ago. Infrastructure New South Wales pushed for this. Why hasn't this Premier and previous Premiers done it? I mean, Stuart Ayres appears to be pushing it outside the cabinet process, the Minister for Western Sydney. Is it purely on cost?
Look, Stuart Ayres is pushing for it, and to his credit, he's done a great job in making that case, and it needs to be made. And other ministers too are committed to the project. There are inevitably hurdles, environmental hurdles in particular. You've mentioned cost, and that's significant, but I think the cost of not doing it is more significant, to be honest. It's cumulative over time, but we've already had 4 floods in a row where the government has had to help people out at significant cost. If we keep on doing this, then obviously a project like this would have paid for itself in time.
Do you think the Premier will commit to it now? Have you spoken to him and Mr Ayres about it? Do you think the government will
I haven't spoken in recent times. I've written to the Premier, as you said in your introduction, and I know the government is committed to this course. I just hope we can get a speed up going. We can make it happen sooner and make this the last of these floods that we have to put up with without doing what we can to protect people in the valley.
Just finally, what are your worst fears if no action is taken?
Look, that we're going to get one of the really big floods. What we've had in recent times are floods of a 1 in 20 sort of magnitude. What they got in the northern rivers earlier in the year was something like a 1 in 1,000. If we had the equivalent of that in the Hawkesbury Nepean, we would have thousands and thousands of homes destroyed and, sadly, lots of lives lost. That's the worst case scenario. None of us want to see that. We want to do whatever it is that's possible to mitigate the effects of flooding. As I said at the outset, we can't stop floods. They'll always happen, but we want to be able to mitigate the effects and protect people to the extent that we can.